Bamidbar, Numbers, chapter 33. These are the journeys of the children of Israel when they went forth out of the land of Mithraim by their hosts, under the hand of Moshe and Aaron. And Moshe wrote their goings out according to their journeys by the command of Yahweh, and these are their journeys according to their goings out. And they journeyed from Amasisu in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month. On the morrow after the Passover, the children of Israel went out with a high hand in the sight of all the Mithraim, while the Mithraim were burying all their firstborn, whom Yahweh had smitten among them. Upon their gods also Yahweh executed judgments. And the children of Israel journeyed from Amasisu and encamped in Succoth. And they journeyed from Succoth and encamped in Etham, which is in the edge of the wilderness. And they journeyed from Etham and turned back to Pihahiroth, which is before Baal-Zephon, and they encamped before Magdol. And they journeyed from before Hahiroth, and passed through the midst of the sea, into the wilderness. And they went 3 days' journey in the wilderness of Etham, and encamped in Marah. And they journeyed from Marah, and came to Hilim, and in Hilim were 12 springs of water, and 70 palm trees, and they encamped there. And they journeyed from Hilim, and encamped by the Red Sea. And they journeyed from the Red Sea, and encamped in the wilderness of Sin. And they journeyed from the wilderness of Sin, and encamped in Dephqah. And they journeyed from Dephqah, and encamped in Halush. And they journeyed from Halush, and encamped in Raphidim, where was no water for the people to drink. And they journeyed from Raphidim, and encamped in the wilderness of Sinai. And they journeyed from the wilderness of Sinai, and encamped in Kibroth Hattawa. And they journeyed from Kibroth Hattawa, and encamped in Hazeroth. And they journeyed from Hazeroth, and encamped in Rethmah. And they journeyed from Rethmah, and encamped in Remmon Pareth. And they journeyed from Remmon Pareth, and encamped in Levonah. And they journeyed from Levonah, and encamped in Resah. And they journeyed from Resah, and encamped in Qehelath. And they journeyed from Qehelath, and encamped in Mount Shafar. And they journeyed from Mount Shafar, and encamped in Haradah. And they journeyed from Haradah, and encamped in Makheloth. And they journeyed from Makheloth, and encamped in Tahat. And they journeyed from Tahat, and encamped in Tarah. And they journeyed from Tarah, and encamped in Mithqah. And they journeyed from Mithqah, and encamped in Heshmonah. And they journeyed from Heshmonah, and encamped in Moseroth. And they journeyed from Moseroth, and encamped in Bnei Ya'qan. And they journeyed from Bnei Ya'qan, and encamped in Hor HaGadgad. And they journeyed from Hor HaGadgad, and encamped in Yetbatah. And they journeyed from Yetbatah, and encamped in Ebronah. And they journeyed from Ebronah, and encamped in Rethion-Gabr. And they journeyed from Rethion-Gabr, and encamped in the wilderness of Thin. The same is Kadesh. And they journeyed from Kadesh, and encamped in Mount Hor, in the edge of the land of Edom. And Aaron the priest went up into Mount Hor at the command of Yahweh, and died there, in the 40th year after the children of Israel were come out of the land of Mizraim, in the 5th month, on the 1st day of the month. And Aaron was 123 years old when he died in Mount Hor. And the Canaanite, the king of Arad, who dwelt in the south in the land of Canaan, heard of the coming of the children of Israel. And they journeyed from Mount Hor, and encamped in Salmonah. And they journeyed from Salmonah, and encamped in Punon. And they journeyed from Punon, and encamped in Hoboth. And they journeyed from Hoboth, and encamped in Abarim, in the border of Moab. And they journeyed from Ayim, and encamped in Divon-Gad. And they journeyed from Divon-Gad, and encamped in Relamon-Debelatayim. And they journeyed from Relamon-Debelatayim, and encamped in the mountains of the Abarim before Nabal. And they journeyed from the mountains of the Abarim, and encamped in the plains of Moab by the Jordan at Jericho. And they encamped by the Jordan from Beit HaYeshimoth even to Havel HaShatim in the plains of Moab. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe in the plains of Moab by the Jordan at Jericho, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, When ye pass over the Jordan into the land of Canaan, then ye shall drive out all the inhabitants of the land from before you, and destroy all their figured stones, and destroy all their cast metal images, and demolish all their high places. And ye shall take possession of the land, and dwell therein. For to you have I given the land to possess it. And ye shall inherit the land by lot, according to your families. To the more ye shall give the more inheritance, and to the fewer thou shalt give the less inheritance. Wheresoever the lot falleth to any man, that shall be his. According to the tribes of your fathers shall ye inherit. But if ye will not drive out the inhabitants of the land from before you, then shall those that ye let remain of them be as pricks in your eyes, and as thorns in your sides, and they shall vex you in the land wherein ye dwell. And it shall become that, as I thought to do to them, so will I do to you.